Brandy, it really, in its most simple definition, is distilled wine. So you got whiskey and bourbon, and that's distilled grain beer. But brandy is where you take the actual fruit, we ferment it out, usually around 4 weeks, because I do a really cold fermentation. And then we throw it in these beautiful copper pot stills made by Vendome. Double still it, everything's done by hand. I do all the cuts and things like that, everything's done by taste. And then we age it in once-use bourbon barrels while we blast rock and roll music to it 24/7.
Copper and King's head distiller Brandon O'Donnell makes brandy making sound easy.
It's a very hands-on approach. Somebody needs to be tasting that every day. You know, wine is definitely a living organism.
In truth, it's part art and part science, something Brandon learned first as a winemaker that's now on display in the distillery.
I'm finding my sweet spots right around 5 to 6 years for a grape, about 4 years for an apple. And then while it's down there, we're listening to some nice music.
Wait, what?
What do you call it? Sonic
aging?
That
Yeah.
sounds like a gimmick. tell me why it's not a gimmick.
So it really does have a scientific purpose behind it. So I've got 5 huge subwoofers in the cellar. I'm blasting music 24/7 to the point you can put your hand on the barrel and you'll feel that barrel vibrate. So every time my barometric pressure changes and that barrel, so to speak, breathes in and out, there's some new spirit that's going in and out of that oak.
And that, Brandon says, makes for a more unique spirit. Of course, so does what you start with. Minnesota's favorite apple, the Honeycrisp, is too sweet to make a good brandy, but there is a Minnesota connection to Copper and Kings. It was started by Joe and Leslie Herron, who founded Crispin Cider in Minneapolis in 2004. And if you haven't guessed already, there's also a pretty strong music connection.
So the idea was to take a song that meant something to you and then create a cocktail based around that.
Spoon and Stable's Nathaniel Smith just took first place at Mixtape, the nationwide cocktail competition put on by Copper and Kings. His inspiration, Minneapolis' native son, Prince. What he came up with is a light purple sour style drink based on the classic Jack Rose, and it uses unaged, immature apple brandy.
It's going to have like a really fresh apple flavor.
To that, add equal parts of fresh lime juice and homemade grenadine.
You just make this with pomegranate juice and sugar. I added a little bit of black pepper just to get some heat and complexity. The vermouth is going to act as the bittering balance for this. The amaretto is going to give it a little bit of sweetness, and then just a little bit of fluffiness from egg whites.
Shake everything together, first without ice in what's called a mime shake to help combine all the ingredients. Then again, this time with ice.
It's the lavender superior absinthe and dressing the cocktail with a flower and just kind of that floral Prince style.
It's too pretty to drink, said no one ever. It's very subtle flavors for having so many strong-willed spirits in there.